So that would explain why we have leggy fall seedlings this year and have never had them in the past. I've grown a ton of fall seedlings. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having a fantastic day. It is Friday, September 13th here in South Georgia, and on today's video we're going to talk about a common problem that a lot of people, including myself, seem to be having right now. Going to talk about what may have led to those issues or that problem, and then what we can do to fix it. So if you've been following along with our videos, you know that 3 or so weeks ago we started a lot of our cool season veggies in the greenhouse here behind me. A lot of different stuff: Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, collards, and kale. But once they got up and going, they started to get a little leggy. So leggy seedlings aren't the end of the world, but it's typically something we don't want to see when we're growing out our own transplants. And I have never had any of my fall seedlings get leggy on me until this year. Yes, I have had some tomatoes in the past that I've started in my office get leggy on me pretty fast, but never had it happen with fall seedlings. I guess it's the first time for everything. And I have lost count on how many messages I have received over the last 2 weeks, people sending me pictures of their fall veggie seedling trays that look a lot like mine do. So basically what happens when we get leggy seedlings, like the ones I showed you earlier there, the stem is growing too fast. It's growing faster than the plant can keep up with, and what happens is it can't support itself and starts to fall over. Now, although they're leggy, some of those in that tray I showed you earlier have close to an acceptable root ball, and I could put some of those in the ground. It's been relatively cool for September around here lately. I might have to baby them and overhead water them a little bit if I put them in the ground right now, but I still think it's a little early for me to do so. So instead of planting them, we need to figure out a solution. But first, let's talk about what caused them to be leggy in the first place. So I can think of 5 different reasons why your transplants or your seedlings might become leggy. Let's start out with number 1, which is light. So this one we see most often when people are trying to grow their own transplants inside their home. They don't have any grow lights. They've got their tray sitting on a desk or a table, and the closest light is what's up there in the ceiling. So as soon as those seeds germinate and start to grow, they start reaching for that light up there in the ceiling, and they become leggy. Now, another possible scenario related to light might be what we've got going on here with ours. So I added this shade cloth earlier this summer, first time I've ever put a shade cloth on this greenhouse, and I have to leave these sides rolled up during the summer, else it gets way too hot in there. And if you look at these seedlings, they're all leaning towards me, kind of out this window here. So I almost wonder if they're trying to kind of run away from the shade cloth a little bit, trying to reach for more light outside this window. So that would explain why we have leggy fall seedlings this year and have never had them in the past. I've grown a ton of fall seedlings in that little greenhouse over the years. And I'm not saying you can't grow some nice seedlings under a shade cloth, but I think the combination of the shade cloth and the open windows where you've got a lot of light right outside there might be causing a problem for us. Now, the second thing that could cause legginess would be overcrowding. If you had too many seedlings grown in too small a space. And I know a lot of people think those trays we use, the cells are way too small in there, but never had any issues in the past. But I could see where that would be an issue if you had things packed in there too tight. Those leaves are not getting enough light, so those stems start elongating, trying to get some light, and the plants get leggy. Now, the third reason plants can get leggy is due to extremely hot temperatures. So those hot temperatures are going to cause those seedlings to grow too fast. That stem elongates too fast, can't support itself, and you've got a problem. And in addition to the light situation with the shade cloth, I think the high temperatures had a lot to do with why ours are leggy. So when I started these, I didn't really realize it, but it got really hot the next week. So after those seeds germinated, we had some really extreme temperatures here in, say, mid to late August, and I probably would have been better off waiting another week or two, but I didn't realize it was going to get that hot. But the fact that it got that hot definitely, I think, caused mine to get leggy. And the fourth reason seedlings can get leggy is due to over-fertilization. Now, I've never experienced this one myself, but I've read about it. If you push them too hard, kind of like the heat thing, they grow too fast and the stem can't support itself. We have been fertilizing ours with some of that Agri-Thrive, but very low dosages. I don't think that's why ours are leggy. And then the fifth reason seedlings can get leggy is due to inconsistent watering. Now, once again, this isn't the reason ours got leggy, but I have seen this happen. So many years ago, I was doing some consulting for a local business that was trying their hand at market farming. They had a greenhouse there on site, and I was working with this guy trying to teach him how to grow his own veggie transplants. So the greenhouse they had was nicely built, weren't any light issues with the greenhouse. Got a little warm, but it didn't get too hot in my opinion. But every time I would go over there and they had started some seeds, man, they were just ridiculously leggy. And we even did some case studies where I started seeds at the same time they did, and theirs were way more leggy than mine were. So it took me a little while to figure this one out, but we determined that it was because they weren't watering enough. They were letting the cells in their seed trays get pretty dry before they watered, and so those seedlings were getting stressed and as a result getting leggy. Now here I'm watering mine at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. So you got to keep that soil nice and moist, or else those seedlings will get stressed and leggy. So now that we've most likely determined what caused this, what can we do about it? Well, we could give them another week or so, let the root ball get a little more developed, and we could plant them in the garden. Yeah, they would have stems longer than they're supposed to have, but as long as we had a decent root ball, we could probably fish them out of those trays and plant them. However, the problem with doing that is then we're going to have to worry about those things eventually trying to stand up, and with those stems being long and thin like that, they're pretty fragile. We could get some hard rain or something could step on them, a dog or a cat, and break them pretty easily. So I don't really want to go that route. We could also simply start over. Given that it's only the second week of September, I've probably still got time to get another round started, get them grown out, and get them in the ground before it gets too chilly around here. But not everybody, depending on where you live, is going to be that fortunate. Some people are a little more crunched for time with their fall planting, getting this stuff in the ground, getting it established before it starts getting cold. And I don't really want to waste the effort I put into growing out that tray if I think I can save them. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to try and save them. We're going to put them in some larger pots, which is something I don't like to do. Well, I should say I don't mind doing it. On a rainy day like today, it's kind of fun being in the greenhouse there, potting up stuff. But it's an unnecessary step if we grow them out properly in the first place. But due to circumstances beyond our control, we've got leggy seedlings, so up potting we will go. Now it's important to note here that this little 1-inch root ball that we would get from growing out these in this tray is plenty sufficient. We don't need a huge cabbage, kale, or collard plant to go in the ground with. But since we're not quite ready to go in the ground with these anyways, we're going to step them up to a 2.5-inch pot like this, so they look like this. Not something ideally I want to do, but I have plenty of these pots laying around. I have plenty of soil. I don't have to go buy anything to do this, and it should help these plants out a lot. Now this is a little bit of a delicate process, probably not something I would let my kids do, but I'll walk you through step by step how we do it. So the first thing we got to do is gently fish these seedlings, which don't have a complete root ball yet, out of these little cells. Now these PropTech trays here do have little holes in the bottom. You can stick a pencil or a small stick through there and push them up that way if they've got a well-developed root ball. These don't yet, so if we stick a pencil up through there right now, we're probably going to do more harm than good. So what I like to do is use my knife. You need something with a nice thin edge. You can slide down the side of these cells here and fish those seedlings out of there. So we just kind of carefully slide our knife down there and then kind of lift it out a little bit. You can see there, definitely not an established root ball. Now, if this were a tomato plant, we'd be able to see all these tiny little hairs along this stem, and we could plant it as deep as we wanted because we know those little hairs would form roots. A lot of people do that all the time, stepping up tomatoes or planting them deep. But with these brassica transplants, you know, we may get some root development along this stem here, but not to the extent we would with tomatoes. What we're hoping will happen here is we're going to plant it a little bit deep in this cup, and we're hoping that it will form roots kind of above that stem a little bit, or that existing root ball a little bit, and support that stem. So let me show you how I do this here. Hopefully I'm not too much in the way and you can still see. So we're going to start out with a little 2.5-inch pot. I'm going to put a little bit of soil in here. I'm going to make sure it's nice and crumbled up. I don't want any chunks. Just a little bit in the bottom there. You can see that. And then I'm going to gently place this leggy seedling in there, and I'm going to use my 2 fingers to kind of hold it in the center, and then I'm going to just lightly sprinkle some more of this Pro Mix around that seedling there, just carefully surrounding it with more soil, but trying not to break it. I'm going to be gentle with it, not too rough. And then we'll just kind of pack it around there like that, and that's what we've got. And I'll do one more here just so you can see the process one more time. Let me fish out another one of these amazing cauliflower transplants that don't look so amazing right now. Put a little bit of soil in the bottom of that pot there. And then let's put that down inside there. Kind of see if we can get it in the middle. And then start gently packing in some soil around it. It's something to do on a rainy day and you can't do anything else outside. But there we go. That looks a lot better than it did. Now, another mistake I made that didn't cause these plants to become leggy, but certainly didn't help the situation once they were leggy, was I was using the wrong watering nozzle on these specifically. So I was using my standard nozzle in here, which puts out a decent amount of water through all those little holes. I should have been using this mist nozzle here instead. I was beating them down probably a little too much once they got leggy. So with some of these Brussels sprouts and broccoli seedlings that I up potted earlier, I used the mist nozzle on those, and I'll continue to use the mist nozzle on them over the next couple weeks. I should have known better with those others. Now, it does take considerably longer to saturate all the seed starting mix in this pot using the mist nozzle versus a normal nozzle, but it's worth, you know, taking that extra effort. That way you don't beat these little fragile seedlings up any more than you have to. Some of these are still leaning a little bit, but I would imagine in the next few days they'll all be standing upright and should be looking a lot better. So not all is lost if your seedlings become leggy, as long as they're not too leggy. If they're a lot worse than mine are in there now, you might not be able to save them. As I was doing those Brussels sprout seedlings earlier, I did have a few that just broke and fell apart as I was trying to fish them out of that tray. So I wasn't able to save all of them, but I did save a majority of them. And if you've already got pots and seed starting mix, or you could use potting soil for what we just did earlier. If you've already got those things on hand, it's just going to take a little bit of time to do that and save those leggy transplants. I don't know that I would go out and buy a lot of stuff to save those. I probably would just start over, assuming I had some extra seeds laying around. But since I already had that stuff on hand, figured it was worth it. We'll try to save them. That way we can get a round of these cool seeds and veggies in the ground, hopefully in the next couple weeks. So it's not ideal that those got leggy, but it's also not the end of the world, because I think we're going to be able to save them. I didn't want them to become leggy. I would love them to look nice and healthy and almost ready to go in the ground. But the fact that they got leggy gave us an opportunity to talk about a common problem that a lot of people have and what you can do about it. So I hope you enjoyed the video today, and if you want to know how to treat those cool season veggies well once you put them in the ground, watch this video where we go over our really simple cool season veggie fertilization plan, how you need to treat some plants differently than others. We'll break it all down for you in that video. So check that out, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.